Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world, and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I am the host here at Office Hours, the agency trainer here at Hosting.com. And every Thursday, you get to pop into my virtual office and ask whatever it is you would like to ask. It's always a lot of different kinds of questions. If you're just joining us for your first time, we're so glad you're here. All right, if you'd like to ask a question, you may do so using the link in the chat if you're with us live, or just use the QR code right there on the office hours background there. That'll let you ask a question at any time, and we stack those up and answer those in roughly the order in which they are received. Well, let's get started with this week's weekly brief. We have a number of WordPressy type items to talk about. Beginning with, yay, we finally have a date for WordPress 7.0. It will drop on May the 20th. That is a Wednesday. And they've been kicking this date around now for several weeks because there were issues with the flagship feature of WordPress 7, which is real-time collaboration. So if you've ever worked in a Google Doc with somebody else, at the same time, and how you can kind of see their cursor and what they're working on. That's what the real-time collaboration feature is going to be like inside the block editor in WordPress. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you use a page builder or something for most of your work, you won't be able to benefit from these features as it is only in the block editor. But there are a number of other features we'll mention here as well. So they have this regular cadence of Wednesdays. RC3 will drop on May the 8th, then the 14th for RC4, a code freeze on the 19th, and WordPress 7 dropping on Wednesday, May the 20th. Now, the big features as part of WordPress 7 are, again, as I mentioned, this real-time collaboration feature. Also, the AI connectors. So I anticipate that I'm going to be using or enjoying the AI connectors feature a lot more than real-time collaboration. This is going to allow you to connect your favorite AI tool from OpenAI, Google, or Anthropic directly to WordPress and start talking to it and doing things via that AI interface. There is the new admin redesign that will drop in WordPress 7. So it's not a massive, it's not going to look super different. It is a little bit cleaner and crisper. You can tell that right away, but also it's going to be a lot faster simply because of the way they are they've rebuilt the way the data views, lists of pages and posts and products and those sorts of things. All that is kind of redesigned, and it's going to be more quickly loading, which, my goodness, that is a good thing. Also, there will be visual revisions. I showed this a couple of weeks ago where you'll be able to see, now you can do revisions in the block editor where you can see what text has changed. But also now you'll actually be able to see the blocks visually, how they've changed from revision to revision. So that's pretty helpful. They're also bumping minimum PHP support to 7.4. So if you have any languishing sites way back on PHP 5 dot something, first of all, wow. Also, those are not going to be able to be upgraded to WordPress 7. So there you go. That's all coming May the 20th. So we're looking forward to that. All right, let's take a look at our second story. So this is an article from Forbes.com, actually written by our own Mike Demo. So congratulations for being part of the Forbes Council. Now, Mike is going to be writing a lot of content for Forbes. So that's pretty cool. 47 days is now going to be the length of SSL certificates coming by 2029. So not tomorrow for sure, but coming soon. The length of validity for SSL certificates is going to shrink to 47 days. Now, the reason that is because SSL certificates can get compromised, and that can become an attack surface. And so the council, the Certificate Authority Council Browser Forum, they've decided that the plan in the next few years is to make SSL certificates only valid for 47 days. Now, the only reason that might affect you is if you are still buying and uploading or manually generating SSL certificates for your clients. I don't think many of us are anymore, and hopefully your host, like hosting.com, has an auto SSL tool built into its hosting where it's generating certificates automatically. And if that's the case, no worries whatsoever. However, if you are still having to manually do something with SSL, it's about to get a lot harder in the next couple of years. So just be aware of that. And goodness, if your host isn't providing free SSL, honestly, probably time to find a new host. Here's another one. Now, if you or your clients are using WooCommerce subscriptions, this is something to pay attention to right away. There are a couple of critical bugs in the WooCommerce subscriptions plugin that are not, it's causing recurring charges not to happen. And you're not getting the normal notifications that a charge has failed. So if you are running WooCommerce subscriptions like the WooCommerce actual official plugin, you need to go in and make sure that you don't have any silently failed subscriptions. So there's no email to the customer letting them know it failed. There's no failed payment status. It's just not reporting it. And that's not great, especially for a subscriptions plugin that's really pretty expensive compared to others. So just be aware of this. Take a look over the last 40 days, pull a report comparing active subscriptions to actual renewals, and make sure that everything is correct. That's just extra work for us, and it's kind of ridiculous when WooCommerce subscriptions are expensive. That's an expensive plugin. It's kind of a core feature of the plugin. So anyway, there you go. That's great news, huh? Anybody running WooCommerce subscriptions on anything? All right, another one. This is a really cool tool that I just want to put on your radar if you are a Gravity Forms person. So Gravity Merge is a new tool from Richard Best, who is a WordPress developer who is also an attorney. And what Richard has done is created this intermediary, as it were, that will take entries in a Gravity form, run it through AI with a template of a document like this or whatever, and using AI generate the document correctly based on the form submission. So the use cases that have been talked about for this are like real estate or law or other things. So if you are hearing me describe this and you go, I think I've got a client that could use this, check it out, gravitymerge.co. I think it's a really clever tool for Gravity Forms users. It is a premium plugin, of course. And it will create a Word document or a PDF, which is kind of cool. All right, Agency Summit from Adobe is coming back just a few days. So it's April 27th through the 30th. That's 4 days of sessions aimed especially at web agency owners and folks. They always talk about things like pricing and processes and client communication, team issues. They're usually very practical talks. I recommend this event. I usually catch it on the replay, but it's quite good. It is both, it is virtual and on-demand replay is available. So take a look at that, adoram.io/summit, and that is coming up next week. Grab a ticket or a registration for that if you haven't already. It is free, no cost. All right, this is a new tool from Cloudflare, which is pretty darn cool. It is called isitagentready.com. So what this tool will do is take a look at your website and see how AI agents are going to interact with it. So let's put in wpnathan.com and see what we get. It takes just a minute to run. And while that's running, Cloudflare is betting that people don't understand how their sites are currently engaging with agents. So they've built this tool to help you see. And it's really actually pretty cool. Gives you kind of a score overview. Okay, we do have these things. There is no markdown negotiation. In other words, it doesn't support Markdown for agents. So I don't have that plugin I've talked about in the past from Progress Planner called Markdown Alternate. Also, Cloudflare does have a toggle that will allow you to present your site in Markdown. So it's flagging that. Do I have AI bot rules? No, which is odd. It does give you documentation on how to fix these things. So that's pretty cool. So it kind of just gives you a rundown of the things that you might do to make your site more friendly to AI agents. And each of these have resources. And the beautiful thing is, if you don't understand what these things are, you just take the resource links, you put them in your favorite AI tool and say, hey, explain this to me. And point it at this URL where it can view your results. It's pretty neat. Ben, you may be right that Cloudflare Markdown option might still be a paid, it might be a paid service from Cloudflare. I'm not 100% sure of that. Worth checking. It would also make sense that Cloudflare might create a tool to let you know that you might benefit from one of its paid services. Go figure. But anyway, it's kind of nice. And this is a tool you might want to run through some of your sites for clients that could benefit from AI referencing in AI search. All right. For those of you that I just saw earlier in the chat who are like, nope, no AI in WordPress for me, here's a plugin you probably want to be aware of. It's called Turn Off AI Features. And guess what it does? It turns off all the AI features that WordPress 7.0 is going to produce. So if you don't want this at all, you can download this plugin and it will disable all the things. So there you go. That is WordPress.org plugins, turn off AI features. There you go. You know, just every time WordPress drops a new feature, there's always a plugin that undoes the dropped new feature, right? If you'd like the links to all these things, I'm going to drop the link to the slide deck again there in the chat. All right, one more thing before we get into questions, and that is, okay, if you've not yet played with Nova Mira, I would suggest you carve out a little bit of time and play with Nova Mira. This is a tool which is totally open source. The code is available to analyze. There's no gotchas here. This allows you to build and let your AI agent talk directly to WordPress. Now, this is a little bit different than the key approach that Core is going to bring. This actually lets you create an MCP. So I played around with this. An MCP, if you're not aware of it, is kind of a translator that sits between your AI tool and some application like WordPress. And so the MCP is what lets the AI agent request through all the things to talk to the app. And Nova Mira is one of these for WordPress. I played around with it on a site, and it's pretty darn cool. It lets you see everything going on the site. You can create content, edit content, change settings, do everything right from a prompt in your AI tool. I was using Claude, and it worked fantastically. You'll want to read, of course, a little bit about security. They have a whole page on that and how all of this works. It is a very, I think, clever and reasonable approach to security for an AI agent via an MCP to talk to WordPress. They are saying, look, this is, you should use this on dev sites or staging sites, not live client sites. Totally understand. But this is a tool that if you've not yet gotten a taste for what AI is going to bring to WordPress and starting to engage with your sites via AI versus you going in and logging in and clicky, 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 it's a whole new world, y'all. And it's pretty remarkable. So this is a free plugin. I recommend you try it out because we're about to enter into a whole new era. I've been telling you that now for several months. When WordPress 7 drops with all these AI features, and now this one as well, it's going to change a lot of how we interact with our favorite content management system. Okay, a couple of notes here on upcoming live streams before we get into questions. We have on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about the image problem, the easiest fix for WordPress speed. We're going to be unpacking all the things about images, image optimizing plugins. Where does Cloudflare fit into the middle of all of this? Um, we're going to be hitting everything images. And so this is going to be a good hour of content. So I'm looking forward to that on Tuesday. Also, the two other content live streams scheduled for May are all about Cloudflare. Now, note, these are back to back. So May 12th and May 19th, 2 Tuesdays right in a row. Cloudflare Basics on May the 12th. A little more, or pardon me, there's, I am incorrect. The next Cloudflare is May the 26th. So it is our 2 weeks apart. There is one in the middle, though. Start hoping and stop engineering. This is going to be a fun live stream all about strategic partnership referrals. So that's in there, and that is on May 19th. So 3 good content live streams here in May, and I should really read more carefully. So there you go. A lot of stuff coming up on hosting.com. And if you would like, all of our links, they are, again, waiting on you here in the chat. And I've added QR codes. Well, let's get into questions, shall we? If you have a question to ask, please use the link in the chat. And the first one up is class. 11 questions in the list so far. So if you have a question, go ahead and get that in because we may run out of time today. All right, class is up. Alternative to Adobe XD for mocking up web design. I've been using Adobe XD for mocking up anywhere from wireframe to finished designs that clients can sign off on. Since I'm exiting the Adobe subscription fold, I need a new tool for creating design mockups. Looking for recommendations. Needs to cover a full spectrum from basic wireframe to design mockups I can show clients. Great question for that class. The growing list of tools that will do this for you in AI is pretty amazing. I'll talk about a couple. There is Stitch from Google, and there's also the brand new Claude Design that just released. Now, Claude Design, I played with it actually yesterday for an hour. I gave myself an hour to explore it, rebuilding a page, or kind of a new homepage for our agency site, which is desperately needing of redesign. And it did pretty well. Claude Design did. And so, yeah, what you'll have to ask yourself, honestly, is it worth leaning into an AI tool now that you can direct, or is it worth learning a new desktop app where you're actually doing the design? That's what you have to figure out. So those are two: Google Sketch and Google Stitch and Claude Design. Those are both very good. Claude Design probably a little bit better. As far as an actual desktop app, what I'm using for that now, class, is Figma. Figma is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's made for what you're describing. It's made to do website mockups. It has a prototype mode or preview mode where you can view it and show the client just the frame of the website you've designed. It's quite good. And even if you don't get into the nitty gritty of Figma, you can still make a very nice mock-up that you can then push out to whatever it is you want to build from and get client output. So I would recommend Figma as the answer to your question, class. Unless you're doing a ton of projects all at once, you're probably okay on the free version. So Figma.com, I believe. Yep, that's it. All right. Does that work for you, class? Any other recommendations for class in the chat? Billy is suggesting mock-ups, MOCQ. That's an interesting way to write it. And then, Sherry is also suggesting Figma and Sketch. All right. Next up in the list is Alvin. Hey, Alvin. Alvin is not with us today, but we shall endeavor to answer in absentia. Okay. Alvin says, a client would like to migrate GoDaddy Microsoft 365 email to cPanel hosted email. Oh, dear. Ooh. What's the best way to do this? I'm usually doing the reverse. The plan is to turn on IMAP and GoDaddy if that's allowed and try migration using IMAP. I have no idea. I avoid email like any other illness. And I am not the right guy to ask on this, unfortunately, Alvin. Theoretically, you should be able to turn on IMAP and pull things in, but I have no idea. Anybody have an idea for Alvin there in the chat? Please drop it in. This is I intentionally avoid supporting email for clients for reasons like this. I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, it depends on how much they're spending on Office 365, but the funny thing is they may end up paying you more to do this migration than the cost for a year of 365. And the hopefully, Alvin, you have prepared them for the likely vast amount of spam they're going to receive by moving to a cPanel email system, because that is a problem. Okay. Next up is Kay. Hey, Kay. All right. Kay says, I'm getting frequent messages from use.ai urging me to switch to their offer of 25 different models for a single fee. They present it this way. Ask GPT-5 to produce all the documents you need. Have Claude review and improve it. Have Gemini fact check the data. Let Llama polish the final version. All in the same conversation. No tab switching, no copy pasting, just seamless AI collaboration. What a deal. Oh my. Okay, so what do I think about this? I think it's probably not a great idea. Um, like I understand why these things exist, and one of these sort of umbrella companies, like for example, I used and talked about Merlin for a while. Back 2 to 3 years ago, Merlin was a really good umbrella tool like this, where you pay once for Merlin, you get access to all the things from other AI companies. And that was because there wasn't really a benefit to having your, like, in other words, like, you could do some saved instructions, but there wasn't a huge benefit to training up an AI tool the way you want it to be. That is not the case anymore. And so if you are I will just say AI power user, and by that I mean you're using AI frequently, regularly, it's part of your core work. My advice is stick with one AI, use it, train it, dial it into exactly what you're trying to do. For me, that's Claude. Claude is head and shoulders above the others for the way I want to use AI. Okay. And that's the big thing. I don't use AI anymore as just like a chat bot where I'm just throwing questions at it. It is part of workflows, and Claude is fantastic at that. You'll never be able to do anything like that on one of these boxed in, contained umbrella sites like this. So, whereas, for somebody that's using AI casually, maybe it is a good tool. However, somebody using AI casually, are they really going to know I ought to switch from Chat GPT to Claude to Gemini to, they're not going to know any of that. So I don't know. I think the clock is ticking on tools like this that are lots of different models under one roof. I think there was a place for them, but that place is slowly fading away. Anyway, does that answer the question? I wouldn't use it. Okie dokie. Next up, also class. Okay. Website management solution and uptime monitoring. I'm looking at alternatives to Solid Sync. It's probably a good idea. Testing main WP for the management end. Now I need to land on an uptime monitoring system. Solid Sync has the uptime monitoring inside it, but I could go with a separate service as well. What do you recommend? I'll tell you what I would, if I were starting over today, class, I would, without any hesitation, go over to main WP. I know that the people behind this, and this is the best option right now. I would say if I were starting over today, this is what I would use. Now, for a million years ago, I've been using Infinite WP. I was a beta tester for it probably 15 years ago, maybe not that long. Actually, maybe that long. It's been a long time. And it hasn't advanced as much as some of the others, but it still does all the core things. And I own it lifetime for all the, I just haven't had a business reason to switch away from it. If I was going to move, this is what I would move to. And one of the main reasons for this is it is a self-hosted like Infinite WP, which I honestly like. Like I can set up my own environment for it and whatever. So it is, if you want a more of a SaaS approach, this is not the right tool. But what main WP offers is an MCP. And this is just killer. I cannot tell you the leap in whatever this is going to bring to us when we start using MCPs to manage our sites. So main WP lets you through an MCP connect your tool and you can talk to all your sites. Basically, that's a oversimplified version of it. This is super cool. And honestly, I'm talking to the Infinite WP people, and it might, I'm not there yet, but it might even be worth I'm switching to main WP for this feature, because the limited exposure I've had to talking to, managing, and controlling a site using MCP, it's game changing. It really is. I keep changing that. Mind blowing, game changing. Insert your own metaphor here. It's amazing. So all that, like for example, yesterday when I was tinkering around with this with the Novamira MCP, I needed to download 20 product images out of a sample WooCommerce site. That was one of my tests. It just did it. Boom, put it on the desktop. Not navigating to pages or media library and clicky, clicky, click. It just download images for these 20 products, and they just appeared in a folder on the desktop. It's just crazy. Yeah. So again, if you're wondering what an MCP is, it is a translator that sits between an AI tool like Claude or ChatGPT and an application like WordPress. So it connects the two. Yeah, and this is where the world is going. And if we're not learning about this and getting on board with this, we are going to be left in the dust. Things are changing so rapidly. If we have to be dedicating time to understanding everything that's happening in AI, or we're literally going to be irrelevant in 6 months. And I'm not exaggerating. The amount of things that have changed in AI in the last 6 months alone is staggering. So class, did that help? WP Umbrella, also a good option. Just depends on what you're looking for. All righty. One more from class. Giving form options should have a tooltip or link for more info. Okay. A nonprofit website uses Gravity Forms for the giving form. There are different options that people can give to set up as products in the Gravity form. Okay, good. However, since the description displayed is short, we love to, for each option, show a tooltip or a link to where on the website a donor can learn more. Okay, great. So class, I would urge you not to do a tooltip simply because it's immediately going to make that not accessible. So instead, in the product description or whatever, like you can add HTML even to just a form, an entry description or whatever in Gravity Forms, and have a link to click to learn more about this. That's what I would do. Does that make sense? So you can, like in the description for the form field for the product description, you can add HTML there, wrap it in a span to make the text smaller, whatever. So that's what I would do. Don't use a tooltip. So class is saying each item is described in a different location on the site. Yeah. So just, you can click off to it that way and just make it a link, and they can go grab that information. But you can absolutely add HTML in Gravity Forms field descriptions, or what do they call it? The labels underneath the field. All right, next up is Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth says, I am using the Cadence theme for the first time, and I set all my colors in the customizer. I'm using Beaver Builder as my page builder. The issue is when I create a row or a button or anything I can set a color on, the Cadence colors are there to choose from, but they do not apply. I end up with either nothing or black. It's not good. Do I have to create custom colors to match the theme to be able to use my Cadence palette colors on objects I create? Yes, because the Cadence theme, its color palette is for Cadence theme and Cadence blocks, and Beaver Builder doesn't know how to read that. So it's different. what I would suggest that you do, let me see if I have Beaver Builder active here on this demo site. I do not, but I will activate it quickly. So let's just jump out to, I think I have a page for this already with some Beaver Builder things in it. All right, so let me just jump in here. Elizabeth, Beaver Builder also has its own global colors, and so that's where I would urge you to go. So it's right here at Global Styles, and here you can set all your defaults as well as setting up a list of colors. And this is what's going to pull in to the Beaver Builder saved color palette. It's extra work. I understand that, but Beaver Builder and Cadence don't talk to each other. So if you're going to be using Beaver Builder for page layout, you're going to need to set up the global styles here. Once you do it, it's done. You don't have to worry about it again. All right. So yeah, if you're saying that's what you did, that's what you have to do. All righty. Next up is Jean. Hey, Jean. Jean is not with us today, but she has a simple question. Generally speaking, when signing up online to something and it gives you the option to sign it with your Google or Apple account or whatever, what do you recommend? I'm wondering if it makes things more integrated than one would desire, or does it just make things easier for logging in? Okay. All right. So you're asking Gene about you signing into other websites using your Google account versus um, like trying to do that in WordPress. So we're going to assume you mean, when I sign up for Claude, should I use new credentials or my Google account? Great question. I lean towards setting up separate credentials for each account just for security purposes. It's just less of it's less of an attack surface. I mean, the Google account is pretty secure, but like if your Google account gets compromised, then now all these other 20 accounts are compromised, right? So that's the idea behind it. And there's other, these log in with Facebook. God, log in with Amazon, log in with Apple, log in with, there's all these options out there for a single sign on like that. I generally, and by the way, some sites require that you log in with a Google account or whatever. I always lean towards setting up a separate login and password for that particular website with its own 2FA if they support it, with a passkey if they support it. Everything's stored in a password manager. That way they live in their own isolated walled gardens. All right, Tanya is next. Hey, Tanya. I know the answer will likely be hosting.com. Well, that's the answer to everything, Tanya. You should, if it involves hosting companies, the answer is you should switch to hosting.com. And I did. I personally paid for it because I think it's better. Anyway, I have a client that has a fairly robust website that will be loading a boatload of images over the lifetime of their site. It's an auction house. They load images for auction posts. At the moment, they are grandfathered. They are grandfathered into an unlimited other hosting account, unlimited sites, files, bandwidth, blah, blah, blah. I don't include hosting for my clients because I know nothing. That you know things, Tanya, and lots of it when it comes to hosting. Okay. When hosting type packages for a site that has managed to upload 2,500 images in just over a year, they need 99% uptime. Yeah. And they get a good amount of traffic. Okay. First of all, 99.9% uptime is, I recall, 8 hours a year. Okay. So just be aware of that. Sounds like a lot, but over the course of hours in a year, 99.9% is a lot of hours. Anyway, so what will you need? Generally speaking, it's not so much the number of images that is the issue. It is the space and storage space those images are consuming, right? So generally in a managed WordPress situation, they're looking at storage space, not number of images. Now, some may do that. I don't know why. So that's the issue. If that's your concern, put them on a VPS, a low end VPS with hosting.com, where you got separate storage space. You can take a look at, let's see, managed VPS. And there are some options, right? So this 100 gigs. If you've got 100 gigs of images, there's other problems. Like that's a lot. 100 gigs is a lot. So something like this is a great place to start for that. It includes cPanel. It's built in. You got a dedicated IP address. It's NVMe storage, so it's fast. 4 gigs of RAM should be plenty for a single site. That's what I would lean towards. Start off here, and reach out to Mike Demo. Mike can help you get set up on all of this. So your other option would be the managed WordPress hosting for by Rocket.net. You are going to see there's a 20 gig storage limit on the basic plan. That does bump up, but I mean, 20 gigabytes, it's a lot of images. The other thing that you might consider here is if you're using an image optimizing plugin that creates WebP images, you're basically going to double the size of your media library because you're uploading a JPEG, your image optimizer is going to convert it to WebP. Both of those images exist. And so you've essentially doubled or more your media library, depending on how many other file sizes you have defined. So could be that simply reducing the number of image sizes your WordPress install is creating could, if you're hitting that limit, that's a way to deal with it. So there's a couple of options, and hopefully, Tanya, that is helpful. And by the way, we're going to be talking about images on Tuesday, so you should absolutely sign up for that live stream if you aren't already. Okay, next up is Doris. Hey, Doris. Okay, Doris, do you have a recommendation for a technical support ticket plugin or process for a website that gets a modest number of help requests? It's a membership site, and most of the problems involve people unable to log in or trouble resetting their passwords. Simple problems, but I would like to have the requests in some sort of queue rather than just arriving in my work email at all hours. Okay, so Doris, this is for you, right? A ticket system for your business. There are some. The easiest one for WordPress that I would say is Fluent Support. It's right in WordPress. You can use it this way. It works great. I thought they had a free version. They may not. So $100 a year, basically. It's not bad. There are others out there that are more of a SaaS option. And I honestly do lean toward a SaaS option for a ticketing system simply because, let's say the world comes to an end and the server goes down, or there's some network issue or something happens. And for whatever reason, my server is down. If my ticket system is on my server and my client site is on the server and the server goes down and they see their site is down, they can't email my support system. So that's why I say if you're going to run a WordPress-based, server-based, you do it yourself support ticket solution, put it in a separate hosting account than where you're hosting your clients, just for redundancy. Here is, thank you very much, Terry, the Fluent Support free version. I'm sure it's limited, but my guess is it does the basics for you, Doris. And this is the sort of thing that could just live in a very inexpensive hosting platform. So this is a good one. Others, what's everybody using for support tickets? Just drop it in the chat. Give Doris your recommendation. We use Thrive Desk in my agency. Was an AppSumo deal. We really like it. It's the best support ticket system we've used. It is a SaaS option. But this is a good, just install it, get it done, and it works, at least to get you started, Doris, if you wanted to just jump into something. And the free version, I'm sure they have a free versus pro feature set. All righty. Next up in the list is Terry. Hey, Terry. Nathan, I really admire how consistent you are with office hours. This is a paid commercial endorsement to Terry. I'd love to understand the system behind it, how you manage to deliver these week after week at home or traveling. What goes in to make that possible? And what advice would you give to someone who wants to set up a similar weekly training series? Okay, great question. So, Terry, are you specifically talking about the tech or like the news items, that sort of thing, or what? I can give a little bit how I do it all. Boy. Okay, we can take a stab at that. I will, by the way, folks, there's one other question, two more questions left. So if you have a question to ask, please use the link in the chat. Okay, so I gotta say, there's not a lot of tech behind this, Terry. It's about as low tech as you can get. There's the gravity form on wpnathan.com that captures questions. This is this background here. This is just another monitor setting over there on my right side that has wallpaper for office hours. Yeah, so and I'm just answering questions. There's not a lot of tech behind it at all. And nope, there's not a lot of planning because I'm just opening up the browser answering questions. So thank you, Sue. Sue says the trick is knowing the answers. And look, there are plenty of times I don't know the answers, and I'm okay with that because it's impossible for anybody to know all the answers about everything. And so that's why it's always fun to lean out to folks who are also here live and get other recommendations and so forth. So we're all doing this together. We're all trying to figure this out together. It is more complicated when I'm traveling, obviously, because I don't have the lights and my good camera and my good microphone and multiple monitors and all of those things. It's a little more complicated, but when I am traveling, which is not nearly as much as I used to, I simply take an iPad. I connect the iPad to my MacBook Pro with a USB-C cable, and I use the Mac as a second, pardon me, I use the iPad as a second monitor. And that's an easy way to. Now, Sue's asking the more interesting, or the more not interesting, but the more complicated question. That's the word I'm after, which is how do you get the news items? And this is a process that I have created in Claude. So it goes out and it has access to the email where I get a bunch of newsletters every week, and it goes and looks at those and pulls the top 20 or so things that look interesting. Based on the criteria that I've given it, I narrow that down and I let it write some summaries, which I then revise, and it knows how to generate this HTML slide deck that you see on the screen. So it all that's done with Claude. Well, thanks for asking the question. That was fun. Next up is Chris. Hey, Chris. Oh, and by the way, Terry, we are using this free website called Calmly Writer to paste the questions into. When we first started Office Hours, long time ago on another platform, I was just reading the questions out loud, and people found that very hard to follow. So I thought, well, why don't we just paste the question into something that lets people read along? And so that's what we did. That's calmlywriter.com. All right, so this is Chris. Hey, Chris. I need some help understanding which plugin to use. I want to store media library items in Cloudflare R2, and I need the same push-pull that we get from Offload Media with Amazon. I asked AI, and they've explained that Offload Media needs help to work with Cloudflare, which can be done with AI. I wouldn't try that. There's also Vowel Media Offload for Cloudflare, Offload Media Cloud Storage, Cloud Sync Master. I have no idea. I've never used any of those for this purpose. Let me ask you this, Chris. Why do you need to move the media to R2? I mean, you can certainly do that, but you're introducing a whole other layer of complexity to your WordPress install. And it's important to make sure it's worth that payoff. So what's the goal with moving to, okay. Chris says it's a new site, tons and tons and tons of stuff and cost. Okay. So honestly, Chris, I would like, is it that you're hitting storage limits on your hosting platform with the media library? Okay. You want to do it right. Okay. So a few principles here. Okay. in principle, I don't like to put my media library somewhere else, because if something breaks, now you've got a whole other layer of something to troubleshoot, and it introduces complexity that's going to come back and bite you in the future. Okay. Now, here's the question. What makes this media library so big? Is it all images, or is it PDFs and audio and video? What makes this media library so large? And also, how big is big? Okay, PDFs and images. Building a site for a dog show. Okay, Chris, my gut feeling is you're overcomplicating it. I would millions and millions of PDF records, and so I'm going to assume it's bunches of PDFs, right? That's a good case to move to some cloud storage. However, let me ask you this: are these PDFs something that an administrator is going to upload, or that users are going to be uploading themselves? User upload of PDF. Oh, that's going to be a pain in the butt. Okay. And then how large is large? When you say millions and millions of PDFs, perhaps? Really? That many? Like literally millions of PDFs. Because that's the thing. We need to figure out how big is actually big, and is it really worth the lift to move media someplace else? Millions of dogs, newer dogs, live images, and PDFs. You may. All right, let's just give some context here. And I have a hard stop at 2:00, so I want to answer this quickly, and we need to move on. This might be a case to move library offsite. Okay. How 100,000 per month will have a PDF. Okay. So Chris, for example, eDub, the media optimization plugin that we use, the premium version, has a PDF compression built into it. So even if somebody uploads a gigantic uncompressed PDF, it's going to slim it down. So what you may find, like, you need to figure out what is the average size of one of these PDFs. Because if it's, say, 100K, that's 100K times 100,000. I'm getting into many Ks, but that's not that much over time. Okay. So, that you do the math and see what it's actually going to be. And you may just get a server that has good storage and keep it all there, because honestly, trying to do this media export, like this is going to happen. At some point, you're going to get a ticket or something. You're going to realize all the media is disconnected now. Nothing works. And you got to go in and troubleshoot it and figure it out and all these things. And it's going to come back and bite you. So avoid it if at all possible. Or as Melanie is, that was just to me, Melanie, maybe that was intentional, but you could use AWS and offload media, for this as well. The Delicious Brains it's owned by somebody else now. The S3 offload media plugin that's been around forever and ever, that works really well. I'm not sure of something that does equally as well with Cloudflare R2. And with that, I need to wrap things up just for the sake of time. Does that give you some direction, Chris? I would do the math and make sure this is actually necessary. And I would, before I was moved into any cloud storage, try to get hosting that offers you enough storage to accommodate this issue. That's what I would try to do. And only if that was not possible would I lean into external storage. Okay. Next up is Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey, I'm not sure this is really a question, okay? More just thinking out loud, but your points about AI and WordPress got me thinking about how I'd actually deploy it. Obviously, wouldn't share my API key, of course not. So I'd have them add their own or help them set it up. That brings up a concern. Could the AI end up helping clients do things I normally handle? Yeah. Could it break the site? Possibly. It would be great if there was a way to limit what the AI can do, maybe like an MD file, so it only helps with the block editor. Disable AI sounds useful. Yeah, so this is getting into the area where I think you're exactly right in how you're thinking, Jeffrey, but we don't know enough about how this is actually going to hit in WordPress 7 yet. I mean, you could install the beta and tinker with it, I suppose, but you wouldn't want to do that on a live site. It's complicated. You want to experiment to see how you could actually stop some of the things. And there will certainly be plugins where you'll be able to toggle on and off what the AI can have access to and so forth. You're right. It does sound like a great topic for future training, and that will be on the radar when these things are real in WordPress. So thank you for bringing that up. Billy is next. We've got 2 questions in 3 minutes. Let's see how we do. Billy says, I've been working on building an app with hosting.com's application builder. Awesome. A child care center checklist. It's a front-end app, a form that allows parents checking out a child care center to rate many different items. I want them to be able to send the form results to themselves. Since it's a front-end app, the AI is recommending using Mail to. No. This has obvious issues. Do you have any recommendation? Yes, I do. Billy, are you using Postmark already? Because all you have to do is set up a new key in your existing Postmark account, plug it into your AI platform, and there it goes. We've built a couple of internal AI apps with Lovable that use Postmark, our existing Postmark account with its own little transactional API key, and it sends the mail that way, and it totally works. Works so well. Any other transactional plugin like that or platform like that, Mailgun, fill in the blank. Use Postmark, generate a new API key, give it to your app, but be careful. Don't just drop the API key in the chat because that's insecure. You want to ask that platform, how should you supply this AI key to it so that it stays secure? And it'll probably have you put it in a .env file or something like that. It'll tell you how to do that so that it stays secure. All right, and one more. This is from Ben B. Hey, Ben. Oh, yes. What is the recommended level in Claude if one is hitting the level limit? Ben, can I be snarky? Because the answer to this question is the next one. Whatever the level you're on, upgrade to the next one. And I will tell you, I am now paying $100 a month to Anthropic to use Claude, and I am happy to do it. Well, kind of. Yeah, I'm happy because it is doing so much for me. It is worth more than $100 a month to me. And I imagine at some point I might even bump up to that $200 a month, depending on what all we continue to do. But right now, the whole time I've been broadcasting here in office hours, Claude is still crunching away. I'm looking down at it now. Still crunching away at a big research task that I gave it. Yeah, pretty neat. And thank you, Jeffrey. That is a good point. There are ways to decrease token usage. The biggest takeaway is don't keep one giant long chat. If you're using markdown documents to store context, you can start a new chat. And it's the longer a chat gets, particularly in Claude, it takes more and more tokens to answer the same questions each time because the context is getting longer and longer. But if you're saving out your findings in, files on your computer or elsewhere that Claude can reference as part of context, then that's a good way to cut down on tokens. Also, make very sure you're using the correct model. Claude in particular, Haiku is really great for most process-oriented tasks, and only when you get into scrutiny or decision-making do you need to bump up to Sonnet and Opus. So make sure you're using the right model because using Haiku is just a smidgen of the cost of using Opus for the same work. All right, that's going to wrap us up for today. Hopefully we've talked about a lot of things today. Good stuff, everybody. Don't forget, I am back on Tuesday for the image live stream. If you haven't signed up for that, the link to do so is waiting on you in the chat. We'll be talking all about images and particularly leaning into plugins and where does Cloudflare fit? And what about managed hosting by Rocket.net? How does it work with images? Because it does some really cool things. That's all on Tuesday here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.